Hello, welcome to the introductory course to crystal healing. We are going to start off by talking about the history of crystal healing. I think it's really important before you learn any topic to learn the history of it and where it came from. So, before we begin, I just wanted to give a PSA that a lot of the different groups of people we're going to talk about that used crystals and energy healing commingle in the timeline factor. So, I just want to give that PSA. They intermingle. It's not like they used it, then they stopped, then they used it, and then they stopped. They kind of commingle. And we're actually going to start all the way back to the fourth millennia BC, so fourth millennia before Christ, with the Sumerians. The common crystals that they use is the lazuli and carnelian. They were the first to really use crystals as a magical energy form. They used these crystals in jewelry and amulets, often to protect themselves. They also believed that some crystals healed you and could help you with physical ailments. Um, they also believed that crystals could cleanse the body and mind from spirits. They also believed that crystals were conducts between the earthly and the divine realm. So a lot of their ceremonies and things crystals were present in because it was a conduct, like a tether between them here on earth and the divine realm. The goddess Indiana was depicted with a necklace that has the lazuli, and then the Queen Palome's tomb contained lazuli and carnelian artifacts for protection in the afterlife. So not necessarily the exterior was it, but the interior had a lot of artifacts like jewelry, trophies, and all of that kind of things for protection from in the afterlife. You could also see a lot of crystals depicted in their artwork, which you will see next. So here is some visual work. We can see the lazuli and the carnelian. They're what they look like, that bright blue and that deep orangey red mixture. For these two, you can see them in the artwork. The one on the right is more of a modern artwork that has been recreated of something that you might see now. And then this top left one is a restored piece that they actually had at that time. And then here on the left is Queen Palome's recovered headdress. Um, so it is in a museum, that headdress. It's been recovered, restored, and all of that beautiful things so that we can see how beautiful the beadwork was at that time. And then there's Queen Palome's tombstone. Obviously, they're not gonna do anything super crazy, but they have x-rayed it and seen what's inside of it, the contents of these artifacts, and they've been able to do like um, sciencey things to figure out that a lot of them were made out of this lazuli and carnelian. Just want to preface, I'm not a science teacher. So next we're going to talk about the Egyptians. We're going to start seeing a lot of different parallels between them. So just like them, they used it for protection, health. They use that lazuli and they have that carnelian, but they've also used crystals like turquoise and emerald and clear quartz. Those are very big ones that we've seen come from them. They also were the ground people to start using crystals in cosmetic purposes. So, like galena and maglenite, they grounded it up and they would use it as eyeshadow. So, next, the Egyptians would use crystals to connect to different types of things. So, like that lazuli, that deep blue crystal that we just saw, for them, that was a connection to the night sky, and they often related it to a lot of royalty. The maglenite was also to believe to help with fertility and protection. And then one of the ones that isn't on the common crystals, but they do see it a lot in like ceremonial depictions, is red jasper. They believe that to be connected to more like blood and fire. As we look into now more of the things that you would be able to see when you would go there, statues, their eyes were generally made from crystals. It enhanced the realism of the statues. Crystals were also commonly really used in their fashion, so like jewelry. They also would carve the crystals to look like different shapes. They would make what's called an anka. They believed that an anka to be the key to life. They believed that it represented internal life. It brought them good luck, good health, and regenerate life. And let's hop on over and we can see a picture of. So right there, that is an Anka, that cross-looking thing with the loop. That is an Inca. That is what they believe to be the key to eternal life. Right above my head, we see what their makeup would come in. This would be what the crystals would be grounded up and put in. You can also see down here is a tomb. They used a lot of their different stone work in there. You can see like the blue. And then there is another piece of artwork that you can see crystals used. And then there is just some of their jewelry to kind of get a grasp of their type of style that they had and the way that they used their crystals. The top left is an amulet. Um, I think they're technically all amulets, but that one specifically was mainly used in like religious ceremonies. So let's jump on into the ancient Greece. So they were all about their crystals. They had their amethyst, their hematites, their lazuli, their sapphire, their granite, their jasper, their rose quartz, their carnelian, and their pearls. They were all about crystals. In fact, the word crystal comes from a Greek word kristallos, which means ice, because they believed that clear quartz was water at some point that had just been frozen solid. Several crystals they also associated directly with Greek gods throughout mythology and symbols. So, amethyst was Dionysus, emerald was Aphrodite, aquamarine was Poseidon, rose quartz was Eros. They also believed that amethyst would prevent drunkenness. So, if they had amethyst with them, that Dionysus would protect them from feeling the effects of drunkenness or hungover the next day. Hermaphrodite was for shoulders protection, and sapphire was used a lot for wisdom. So people in power, you would see them with sapphire because that must be why they're so smart and so soulful. A lot of religious people would have sapphire with them. And then rose quartz was to help bring love and beauty, which is fairly accurate to what we see today. So if we look on over to the left, that is a lot of the different types of crystals that they use in raw form. Above me is like a type of jewelry that you would commonly see them wear up there again. And this I thought was a jewelry at first, and then I did some more research. And this is actually, they would make dream catchers as well out of crystals, and they would hang them around their homes for protection. So, ancient Rome, they are a different beast completely. So, everything that we've learned, the common things that we have seen, they're going to be kind of like a left field. They didn't really think that crystals had magic and could be used for magical purposes, but we still see crystals in their universe. So the common crystals that they used were amethyst, granite, and carnelian, but they used it for trade networking for their economic system. So they used crystals as a way to exchange for goods. We did still see a lot of crystals used for religious artifacts like amulets and religious um, that would be used in religious rituals. You can see down there that the what their money sort of looked like. They would carve things in them to make them a little bit more valuable, and then you can also see like how they would use crystals in an amulet and then like in their cross. So ancient China, they loved jade and clear quartz. So now we're back on that track that they use these crystals for cultural reasons, spiritual reasons, medical significance. So medical significance is really where we see them use it. They were like the front runners of actual here's a crystal for healing instead of just protection. Um, we see crystals a lot in their art, rituals, and tradition medicine as well. They believed that the flow of ki, their life force, was powered through crystals. Jane stone was the stone for eternal life, purity, harmony, and then their clear quartz was, or water jade, associated with concentration, preservation, and body energy flow. So what that means is that they believed that clear quartz centers and like balances you out, which is very accurate to again what we see today. That clear quartz is a grounding and power crystals, so clear quartz kind of like charges everything else. So that makes a lot of sense that they would feel like their body has a better energy flow. Rubies was to ward off those evil spirits and protection. So we see that a lot in their artwork and their things that they have around the house to ward off negative energy. The stones were integrated into holistic practices to balance that yin and yang energy. So you remember that black and white yin and yang. Um, it harmonizes organs and aligns with elemental energies. So that yin and yang really shows us that we have our life and then we have that other life, and they just have to commingle and they have to be together in perfect harmony. And crystals really helped bring that type of energy into their practices. So again, we can start seeing a lot of their different artifacts and how they use crystals. The biggest importance that I wanted to show is that they used it everywhere. So they used it in like their weapons, like there's a sword down there, their jewelry, and then artifacts around their homes. So like we see a little religious, it's not, I don't want to say what it's like the little Buddha guy, but it's not Buddha. Clear quartz in that jar, and then just all over the jade and carnelia. You just see it everywhere in their everyday things, like a teapot. So we're going to jump over to medieval Europe now. They liked crystals. They believed again in that magical and protective powers, but they were only really given to people who had money. So this is like the first time a country has gatekept the crystals. So they loved their rubies, sapphires, emeralds, and diamonds. um, they more emphasized on the fact that it was beautiful, but the healing benefits and the magical benefits are only for people who can afford it and are in a position to need to be protected. Um, so again, they were given to royals and nobles. It really created this clear indicator of wealth and rank. The first book about crystals was created by a European man. The book was called Lapidaries. I think that's how you Lapidary Diaries. It details the various virtues of medical powers in stones. He referred and suggested that women and people often should carry talismans and amulets with them. It will promote their health, it will ensure safety. It also could promote safe childbirth, and it can provide good luck. That is what his book emphasized on that crystals could do for him or for you. Um, and again, as we look into other aspects of European culture, we see them a lot in their art and symbolisms. And Europe was known for their great literacy, and poets used the physical qualities to describe things in their work. So, medieval Europe, if you look back at their poetry, you would see a lot of her eyes sparkled like sapphire, and the sky was red like a ruby. Like you would see that type of illustration in their work. So, again, because that author had highly suggest that they use crystals and things they wore, they really were the front runners for wearing crystals and jewelry like that. So they had the rings, the earrings, the bracelets, the amulets, the brooches, and they would even have them on their cups, the religious materials, as we can see right here. And then these down here is just something that you would see in their artwork in their buildings. Europe, medieval Europe specifically, and today's Europe really was passionate about their structures and their beauties within their state. That's why they have a lot of murals, a lot of things like this in old time Europe. If you were to go travel, you would see these types of artwork all over because they really believed in quality scenery for the masses. They wanted people to come here to think that would go there to think that they have a lot of money and they care about the arts, and this was just something that they were passionate about at that time. It was, if we're looking at Europe and like Russia and America, and well, not so much America at this specific time, but once America was formed, we can really see the artistic battle between different countries. Um, that is why, like, New York has such beautiful structures and such beautiful architecture, is because that was very important when we were building, because we were competing with like Russia and Europe to have these beautiful arches everywhere that was quality and was going to last. And okay, I'm done talking. Okay, so we're going to move on to technology. So technology, crystals are fundamental in modern technology. They form a basis of semiconductors with electrical conductivity. So this, they like to say that there's no scientific evidence that crystals have energy, but there actually is, because we use it in technology, because it is an electrical conduit into transferring and transcisors and microprocessors and everything technology. There is literally like an integrated circuit laser, and they have liquid crystal displays. So LSDs, TVs that we see in devices, and like clocks, LSD clocks, those are all made from crystals. So to say that crystals have no electrical power and no energy that is produced by them, they're proving themselves wrong by using it in technology. Crystals also help with frequency and controlling in time. So that's why we see them a lot in like watches and any device that keeps time. So they're in like our computers, our phones, and everything like that. Clear quartz were also used in um, oscillators. It is a certain type of mechanics, but it generates a stable and repetitive waveform. So if a device needs to have a consistent, steady waveform that is going to it, quartz helps make sure that it's stable and can transfer that information to the computers, that it needs to be consistent. They're also in, like I said, they're in our computers, they're in our smartphones, they're in our radios, they're in our watches, they're in our clocks, they're in every single piece of technology that you could possibly think of that has some sort of memory chip. There is a crystal in that device. So spiritual and new age practices. So there is still a lot of us out there who uses crystals for this purpose. Um, Crystals are believed to have a unique vibration and energy. So there is no specific religion that claims crystals as their own, which is really nice because that makes it open to everybody. If not one religion is saying we are claiming crystals, it's open for everybody to be able to use it and use their own interpretations of it. So within that, what we're going to be talking about in my lectures, I'm going to be kind of teaching you what is like the common knowledge, and then what might some other people be thinking about that crystal, if there is other interpretations of those crystals as well. So for healing is commonly what it's used for, spiritual guidance. A lot of people who are like psychics or practice like tarot or use any sort of spiritual guidance connecting to spirits, they will have a crystal on them for that protection, for clarity, for good luck, just making sure that they, you know, I'm coming out here to talk to you. Can you please come out and talk to me? Kind of good luck. Also, meditation. So it helps you be zen. There is speaking of meditation, it's at the bottom of the list, but chakra balancing. So a lot of people who you meditate and also talk about their chakras, they will have specific chakra rocks that help them meditate, and then enhances your spiritual well-being. So just like having like that carnelia or something for like happiness, it really helps. And then intention setting. So again, if you want to set an intention for the day, having a correlating crystal that can help you really helps. And if not the necessary, if you don't necessarily believe that the crystal has this energy inside of it, just having it with you, is intentions for it, can help bring out things because you're manifesting. So we still do see crystals a lot in our fashion and even our cosmetics today. If you didn't know, there's crystals in your cosmetics. So let's start with fashion. So of course we have the decorative elements in our fashion. So earrings, facial piercings, rings, necklaces, anything that you would physically wear for a decorative element. Also decorative element fashion statements within pieces in your home. So uh, like salt rock crystals were really popular to have as a statement a while back, and then also like embellishing on clothing, and like I don't remember who that was that did the red, but fashion statements like that, and then accessories, and then jewelry, of course. And then if we're switching over now to cosmetics, so beauty tools, so like those face rollers, there's the crystal contour thing, and then it is still crushed, powdered, and liquidized today. A lot of these minerals are great for texture and shimmer within cosmetics. So Giselle, Germology Cosmetics, and then 111 Skin still uses them in like makeup products. And then there is some that use it in skincare products. So like Aereo Skincare, Advita, Love and Rose Skin Mist. Those are crystals, and that Love and or that Rose Beauty Mist, that's where like that shimmer would come out. Congratulations, you have just completed the history of crystals. So, what is next? So, what's next is you can, of course, review the slides and review the course description notes. There's going to be no test on this because, like I said, I think it's just important for you to know the history of crystals before you start diving in and learning them specifically. So, starting soon, the next class will be posted, and you can hop on over there if you're joining a little bit later and there's a next class already. Head on over there and start learning. There will be lots of fun crystals to learn about.